Okay. Hi, everyone. A very good evening. I'm really sorry. I think I just took a 2 minute gap to settle in. Welcome to today's session. I'm very happy to have everyone here. Thank you for joining on time. So I just want to know by a quick show of hands how many of us are maybe attending a My Way session for the first time. You can use your Zoom hand or maybe tell me in the chat. Okay, that's great. Okay. Right. So again, I am very happy to host everyone here. For those who are joining us in a session where they already know what MyWays is doing, and maybe a few of you who don't know MyWays yet. So just a brief introduction of ourselves and of the event that we are hosting. So MyWays is a career growth platform where our mission is to help students become experienced freshers, right? And again, this event has been planned out for the same exact reason. We have planned all the sessions in a very hands-on manner because that is the industry requirement today, right? That is why that is what the industry is demanding. So all our sessions are planned in a way to give you practical exposure. And I think this session particularly is about building projects, and not just theoretical knowledge of building projects, but all of you here hopefully would be building your own projects of data science. And I'm looking forward to uh, get the participation and get a lot of questions for our mentor. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Ms. Ekta on the stage. To introduce Ms. Ekta, she's a senior machine learning engineer with Quantify, and she's a repeat mentor at MyWay. She has taken multiple sessions with our community before, and she's very prompt with mentoring the community and contributing to the community, and she does so in her own time also. Today we have planned a session. We have planned out a few projects that we would explain to you. She would be taking over the stage very soon. We would explain how to build the projects, what really is like to build a project on data science, and all of you would submit us the projects. We will give you feedback on the projects, and we will also give certificates to people who submit the projects, right? I think in today's time, having a project on your resume drastically builds up your resume just beyond making a perfect resume structure, but definitely it helps to add on projects on your resume. So over to you, Ms. Ekta. I think the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Tanvi, for the introduction. Am I audible clearly? So yeah, since we have like a 1 hour time period, what we are really going to do is divide this into sections, okay? So we'll talk a bit about what data science is and what are the different skill sets required and what kind of things you'll require for building the project in the first 5-10 minutes. That's all that I'll take on that side. Then what we'll do is like for 20-25 minutes, we'll talk about two projects that I think that you all can build up from scratch, considering that if you have some basic knowledge around the basic skills, you can build up the project. So that's what we're going to talk about. The details about the projects, everything will be, given to you later, and it will be passed on by Tanvi to everyone. That is something that will happen as after the session, not right now. So right now, just listen, do that. That's the most important thing for you to do. And also for the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll have Q&A session where you can ask me anything that you want to about the projects and also about data science in general. So anything and everything, it's an ask me anything kind of a session. So totally open to that. And I think the chat window is where they can put in the questions, right, Tanvi?
Correct. Please, everyone, engage in the chat as much as possible. Before we start, may I just get in the chat how many? So, are you a beginner with data science? Are you how are you? Would you rate yourself as an intermediate person with the data science or Python related problems, or you are already have built some projects on data science? If everyone can use the chat box and tell us where would you rate yourself as a beginner, intermediate, or an advanced level person who would in terms of building projects. Okay, we have a few beginners, intermediate. Okay, so we mostly have beginners and intermediate people. Get the right projects, Ms. Ekta.
Yeah, true. So yeah, we'll talk about the projects also. But before that, let me just share my screen and set some context. Since we are talking about data science, and there may be a lot of people who might not know a lot of things about it. So just a quick beginner kind of a presentation just to, get you started with data science. Are you able to see my screen? Can someone just confirm that? Thank you. Thank you so much. So basically what usually I try to do is try to keep it interactive. But since we have limited time today, what we'll do is I'll take up all your questions in the end. So make sure that you put in your questions into the chat window or even ask later when we open it up for Q&A so that you can ask me anything and everything that you want to with respect to the session. So yes, without further ado, let's just start with this kind of a mentored hands-on workshop that we want to do with data science. So yes, first things first, this is the agenda that we're going to be looking at. So what is data science? The basic skill sets which are required for data science, the different projects that you can build up in data science, and also about our projects that we have planned for you, which you can work on and build on, and the different steps you need to take. Everything is listed in a document and also something that I'm going to be discussing and talking about. Cool. So let's just move forward. So I'm sure that this is a very common picture or a common infographic that you would have seen where, this particular lady is saying that, oh, you're dropping your numbers. And this guy who is a data scientist says that I have so many of them. And I deal with them on a day-to-day basis. So basically, I'm a data scientist. That's what the person is trying to say. So yes, this is a very common sentence that you would have heard about even in the newspapers, which talk about data scientists being the sexiest job of the 21st century. Yeah, it is in a way or the other, because we try to deal with difficult problems, try to solve them, and also try to streamline it in such a way that you're able to drive revenue, able to drive the KPIs that you want to in any organization. So yes, this is completely justified, this particular picture that we talk about. So yes, let's look at a bit of the formal definition that you have into the data science space. So this is the only definition that I have on the entire slide and on the document. So don't worry, we're not going to look into the theoretics of anything. So data science is an interdisciplinary field that uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems to extract knowledge and insights from structured and unstructured data. It is pretty much related to data mining and big data. And the term data scientist was coined as recently as 2008 when companies realized the need for data professionals who are skilled in organizing and analyzing massive amounts of data. So earlier, data science was not that huge. Okay. And data science basically tries to take your raw data, tries to take your intermediary data, and tries to extract some value or meaning from the data. So you're basically trying to visualize, you're basically trying to give some kind of a structure to your data so that you can come up to insight some kind of a meaningful result which can help towards your KPIs or towards your revenue. So that is what we do in a very, very basic, terminology that I can put it forth in front of you. For people who do not know about it, just think about it that you're applying some kind of mathematics and some kind of analysis and algorithms to your data. That's about it. That's the best way to define data science. So yes, these are the, you can call them as 3 circular pillars of data science, where you see that you need to have some basic knowledge around computer science, which is one of the major pillars that you have in data science, next followed up with maths and statistics and business and domain expertise. So computer science is something that people, talk about, learn about as a part of their engineering or bachelor's course, or even during your BSc and other courses also where you have some or the other exposure to computer science. Maths and statistics is very common. I think we are learning that from our childhood. So your childhood maths till your 10th standard maths, and then comes your derivatives, calculus, and linear algebra, and all your matrices and all of that. So your 12th standard maths is usually sufficient. That is what you require in your maths and statistics section. Then next you have your business and domain expertise. Now this particular bubble is something which is more of a detailed analysis and detailed understanding of things which you might get when you work on a particular job. So your third bubble is not important right now, since we're talking about like freshers, beginners. So this is not something that is important. But right now, from your perspective, you need to know something about computer science, something about maths and statistics, and that's gonna be enough. Like you are all set for applying knowledge towards solving data science problems. Now these intersections have different meanings, like your computer science and maths together give you the intention of machine learning. Computer science and business domain expertise give information about traditional software. Math and statistics and business or domain expertise give you information about data analysis. So, and all the culmination about all of these three bubbles together really form your data science course, right? So these are your three major bubbles that you require information on, and you also require some basic knowledge about this. Moving forward, so these are the typical requirements for projects. So people who are raising hands, I'm getting a notification, but guys, just put it on the chat window for now, okay? And we'll try to take all those questions in the Q&A session. So these are your typical requirements for projects, since we are moving towards understanding what project requirements are there. You need to know one of the languages, Python, R. Then you need to know something about statistics, some information about SQL, which is database, machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, and text processing, depending on the kind of problem that you're solving. So machine learning is the very base. But if you're trying to solve a very complex problem, then you might require some knowledge on deep learning. And if you're dealing with some vision related work, then even computer vision might be required. If it's a text related problem, then text processing is what you need knowledge on, which is often referred to as natural language processing. So these are the two different mentored projects that we are going to be talking about. The first one being sentiment analysis. So I'm giving a very brief overview over here in the PPT just in a minute or two. I'm going to go through a document which will take you through the nitty-gritties about what the data is and what all you can do as a part of this project and what you can really put across as your achieved output after you've completed the project. So when we talk about sentiment analysis, we have a lot of data that is getting captured on our social media platforms, right? So something like, say, the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm giving a very, very live example now. There are so many people who keep on tweeting about it so that people are aware about what kind of sentiments are running through humans, right? And these sentiments that you can really see, like your human mind is capable to, say that, okay, this is positive. Okay, this person said some word which is coming in the negative section. So it is a negative tweet. And if it's not, talking about positive or negative, then it would be neutral. Good job, but I will expect a lot more in future. That's more like neutral, not even positive, not even negative. That could also be one of the sentiments, right? So that is what is neutral. So positive, negative, and neutral. These are the three different categories that you would have in your sentiment analysis in a typical scenario whenever you're talking about a sentiment analysis problem. The next kind of problem that we have put forth for you is a cat versus dog classifier. Okay, so if you have like some set of images and you have to really go ahead and train your computer system or train your computer to classify as to what kind of an object or what kind of an animal it is. Over here, it's an animal since our case is cats versus dogs. So the computer should be able to define very clearly that, okay, this is a cat and that one is a dog. It should not be confused. So for that, we have something called as neural networks, which is for people who are more on the intermediate and advanced stages of data science. Okay, so we have these two problems that we are going to be focusing on in terms of mentored projects. So this is just a brief overview. Let me just take you through the entire document, which is going to give you all the information about how you can go about doing it and what you need to really follow. So let me just take you through that. Just a second. Let me reshare my screen. I think I did not share that particular document. Let me just reshare. So you should be able to see my screen, I suppose. Showing me participants can now see your application. Great. So we have this document designed for you, which will be shared by the MyWays team with you on email. You can get all the information about the project over here. Okay. So the first project, as I told you, right, we can, judge about the sentiment analysis for any kind of data that we have. Now, all that we know in the Indian scenario is that we all love watching movies, right? Now, if there is a new movie that is coming up, we often tend to look at something that is called as reviews, which are published online. Now, there is a website called as IMDB, which is the biggest reservoir of movie reviews. So there is this Kaggle platform. I am not sure if everyone knows about it or has heard about it. Kaggle is a platform which has a lot of data sets available, which has important applications created so that people can really access the data and work with it. And it's also a competitive platform where people are trying to solve different kinds of problems put forth by different companies and organizations. but that is for a different session. So you can read a bit about Kaggle. So this particular data set that we have from the IMDb movie reviews is present on the Kaggle platform. So that is what is the thing that we're going to be referring to for our data as well. So you do not have to really collect any data. You just have to click on this link and it will point you to a link on Google Drive, which will help you to download the data set. Now, what really happens is, in terms of prerequisites, you need to have some experience with Python and machine learning. That's when you can get on towards solving this problem. Even if you have some experience with Python, it's fine. Machine learning is not a mandate. It's something that you can learn through the period that you are solving this particular project. But you're new to natural language processing. So as I had mentioned text processing earlier, the other name for text processing is natural language processing, since text is majorly something that you can express in terms of the natural language criteria, right? So this competition is a perfect start to introduce you to techniques like pre-processing with textual data. So whenever you have textual data in consideration, the kind of pre-processing, the kind of steps that are going to be followed are going to be typically for text data. It's going to be way different from your typical numerical data that you have. Like if you're trying to predict, like I'm just taking a very simple example, a predictive problem, wherein you want to figure out whether a customer is going to default on loans or not. So basically you want to figure out whether the customer is going to default on loans or not. In that case, the kind of data that you have is typically numerical in nature, right? That would be the case for any typical machine learning problem. But here, what we are trying to do is sentiment analysis. So we'll have a piece of text. Okay, I'll take some ABC movie. So ABC movie was pretty good. I had a nice time watching it with my family. This is my review that I've written. Now, according to my understanding, like human understanding, I can see that, okay, it's a positive review. But now we have to train our computer to do so. So the kind of reviews that you will see over here for the IMDb movie reviews is also present in this dataset link. You can directly download that data and work with it. So here, basically what you have to do is, I'll give you a good, description about the data. So IMDb is the master website, which has a huge collection of movie reviews from various users. The IMDb movie reviews dataset has some 50,000 records of movie reviews data, and it has only two different sentiment classes. That is, it can be either positive or negative, and it's present in a single CSV file. So CSV file is a comma separated value file, which is stored in the format of an Excel file or a CSV file on this particular Google Drive. Okay. So this is a bit about our data set, how it looks like. Like it will have a review and it will have a tag along with it, that whether it's positive or negative. Now we need historical data for any machine learning algorithm to be able to learn from the data. So if you are aware about data science and ML in general, you know that ML can work only when you want to derive some patterns, derive some insights from the previous trends along with the current trends. So you will always take into account your previous data. So that is what is the task over here as well. So you will be learning from your previous reviews so that the model or the algorithm that you've created is able to classify the new reviews that come into positive or negative. Okay, so that's your basic task. Now, the objectives over here with this particular data is that you want to understand the basic text pre-processing pipeline by using the movie review. So whenever you have textual data, as I was telling you, that the kind of steps that you follow for pre-processing are going to be pretty much different from your numerical data. So that's what we want you to really understand over here. Since once you understand the text pre-processing pipeline, it is something that will be common to all the different text related data that you work with. So that is your first basic objective over here, that is understanding the basic text pre-processing pipeline. Okay. Next is understanding how pre-processing varies from typical numerical data to textual data. That is what is the point that I'm trying to emphasize on. And then once you have understood that, okay, how do we, clean the data? How do we refine it so that our model is able to learn maximum things out of it? What you'll have to do is you'll have to convert it to numerical data. Textual data can't be directly fed into any machine learning model. You really can't work with it in that way. So you will have to convert it into word embedding techniques, and the kind of techniques that are there in the market are bag of words, TF-IDF, and word to work. which are the different techniques which we want you to learn about as a process whenever you are going through this entire project. Next would be understanding how the exploratory data analysis can be performed on any textual data. So how you can really go about visualizing the textual data, all of that is your next objective. Then following it up with the different algorithms that you can apply to, get this particular sentiment analysis project to its conclusion. So whenever you want to model the different kinds of algorithms, that the ML algorithms that can be taken into consideration now, something like say the logistic regression algorithm, the SGD classifier, the naive Bayesian algorithm, these are typical algorithms which are used in any textual modeling stage, right? So this is what we want you to learn and read about. Next is understanding the different evaluation metrics used for evaluating the textual data. So how you can really go about and evaluate your data. So for all those of you who have some basic understanding would know that, you have to divide your data into train, test, and validation. So these are the different sections in which you divide your data. So that's what is the catch, wherein you can really use your evaluation metrics to understand how one performance of the model is affecting your test data, which the model has really not had a look at, right? So this is what we want you to achieve with these objectives, getting a basic understanding of hyperparameter tuning also. So how to start? So the very basic thing that you can start with is reading the data by using pandas. So pandas is a Python library which enables you to read CSV files. So you can start with that. Then surf and read about how you can clean your textual data. Like try to, read about stemming, lemmatization, converting to lowercase, tokenization, many things. So all of those things are a part of your text pre-processing pipeline. So I would want you to read about all of these different things which we have as a part of our text pre-processing pipeline. Then the next thing that you can do is start using the nltk library and start with basic stop word removal and converting into lowercase, which are your very beginning steps whenever you want to deal with any NLP problem. Okay. Now, what is going to be your evaluation criteria? Since Tanvi mentioned that you would, be given the opportunity to submit the project and we'll give you like insights about how you've done and everything. The evaluation criteria is going to be primarily based on these factors. And that's what is written over here. So the first step is implement the text pre-processing pipeline, where you will use the following techniques. Like I've mentioned all of them, like converting it to lowercase, stop word removal, then tokenization, stemming or lemmatization, POS tagging. How you can go about doing this is going to help you achieve 20 points. So if you've done all of these things in your data, like in your data pre-processing, then you will achieve 20 points here. Next is performing EDA on your textual data. Okay, and you can create different kinds of visualizations which will help you to understand the distribution of your textual data that you have. Once you are done with that, then the next step is about understanding and experimenting with various word embedding techniques. So as I mentioned, that you will need to convert your textual data to numerical data. So for that, there are 3 different techniques. So whichever techniques you use and what gives you the best kind of output will give you the next 20 points. Following it up with different models. So as I told you, right, that once we have the data prepared, the next step usually is to perform certain algorithms, like perform some kind of modeling on it, which will require the usage of algorithms. So implement a few of these classification algorithms and perform hyperparameter tuning. So use a naive Bayesian classifier, use logistic regression, random forest classifier, SGD classifier. According to whatever you've been able to understand and able to implement, you can choose which classification algorithm you would want to go ahead with. Next is implement the various accuracy metrics used, like the accuracy score, classification report, etc. So these are your different mathematical measures which will tell you how good your model is. With whatever data you've trained it with, how good it is what is something that you will get with the accuracy metrics. So you can choose to, implement the accuracy metric according to your convenience. I have mentioned accuracy score and classification report. You can add on to it and also, work with it. That's going to be no issues at all. Whatever you do add on top of this is going to be evaluated and put on as a plus point on your side. Okay. Next, what we have is a presentation for 20 points where is there any insightful visualization you can plot or anything fun to look at. Like what have you really been able to excavate from your data? So that's what your anything fun to look at is. What can you infer from the results? Okay, so what is the kind of inference you get from the results? And share a public notebook on Kaggle with your findings. So if you do that, you get 5 points. If you upload your project on GitHub, I'm sure that people who work into the tech space are completely aware about GitHub, which is the code repository. So that is like the biggest plus point when we talk about GitHub. So when you upload your project on GitHub, you get 10 points. And if you make a PPT describing your learning from the projects or results from your analysis and the possible use cases of your project, that is also like one of the ways in which you will have to work in a typical corporate environment. So making the PPT will fetch you 5 more extra points. And your GitHub README should be telling you about all the different scripts and files that you have used in the project. That's the most idealistic way in which you can go ahead and code and solve a particular problem. Okay. So this is your sentiment analysis problem that I've been talking about, which is your first project which you can attempt. Now, this is majorly for beginners, like people who have no exposure to textual data, have not worked on text-based problems. This is the clear gateway which will help you to understand and create a project on this, which will give you the confidence to learn more about textual data processing and its analysis, right? So that's why this is the very first project that we've kept for you. Now, there are two choices. So the second project is also something that I'm going to talk about, which is the cats versus dog classifier. That is for your intermediate and advanced knowledge people about data science who have been working with data science for a very, very long time. So that will help them create a portfolio, as well as for people who would want to learn about neural networks. It's a clear getaway. So it's just a medium through which you can really start, implementing things related to neural networks, image classification, which is a very fundamental problem that we are trying to solve in the industry today. Okay, so let's just go through that particular problem, and then I'll be concluding and taking up all your questions, since I see that the chat window is going to be pretty much flooded. So I'll take those questions next, but let me just go through this particular problem. So this is your cats versus dog classifier. So as I told you, right, we want our machine to be able to classify between two animal pictures, that, okay, which particular animal is the one in front of me is something that the computer should be able to classify. So here you need to have some experience with R or Python, but you're new to machine learning. If this is the case, then you can totally attempt this image classification problem. This competition is the perfect start to introduce you to techniques like boosted decision trees, KNNs, neural networks, and SVMs using a classic dataset, including pre-extracted features. So how this entire process works is that the entire classification that we want to do, like the model that we want to develop for cats versus dogs, it tries to learn from the different images which are fed into it. So if you're giving it a label that, okay, I'm giving you 100 images of dog, I'm just giving you a rough example, and 100 images of cat, the machine will try to, iterate over the different parts and pieces of the cats and dog images and try to learn that, okay, this is a cat and this is a dog. So that's how it works when we really want to classify between any two images or any n number of images that we have. So in this project, what you'll be doing is you'll be putting together a simple image classification pipeline. So when I said that it's a cats versus dogs problem, that you want to solve, it is a classification problem. If you see, we want to understand that, okay, whether this new image that I've got, whether this image is of a cat or is it of a dog, right? So whenever that's the case, we are developing an image classification pipeline overall. Now here is the link to the data set for dogs versus cats. This data set is also something that is present on the Kaggle platform, basically. And there was a challenge that was introduced years ago where they had kept this challenge for everyone to solve. And they had a prize, money kind of a thing also associated with these popular challenges. So the training data, like the data, basically consists of 25,000 images of dogs and cats. So there are 25,000 such images. Train your algorithm on the training data and predict the labels for the test data. So there are two different files over there. One is the training data file and the second one being the test data file. So test data file is something which is not seen by the algorithm. So it will be more like a out of the box experience for the algorithm, and the algorithm will test your model on that. Okay, so you should train your model on the training data and then predict the labels for the test data. And there are two different labels over here. One is dog and zero is cat. Okay, in the data set. What you can do is standardize the image size to 128 into 128 pixels. So that it's a standard image size which you're working with any kind of algorithm that you want to work with. Try to ensure that you resize the image to 128 to 128. Now, a quick description about the kind of pixels and its representation. So each image is 128 pixels in height and 128 pixels in width, for a total of 16,384 pixels in total. So each pixel has a single pixel value associated with it, indicating the lightness or darkness of that pixel, with higher numbers meaning darker. Okay. So depending on the kind of pixel value that you have and the pixel color combination that you have, you'll be able to see whether it's light or whether it's dark. So the pixel value is an integer between 0 and 255. That is a standard which is there across the entire digital world, where all the image values are between 0 and 255. That is for the color palette that we have, which is 256 in range. So you have those kind of colors. So that's why the pixel value is an integer between 0 and 255. Now, the objectives that we try to, or we want you to achieve is that you're able to build a basic image classification pipeline, okay, which has multiple steps in it, and it follows the data-driven approach. That is, it is able to predict whether the new image that is coming in is a dog or a cat. Now, we need to understand the concept of train, validation, and test splits, and the use of your validation data for hyperparameter tuning. Okay, so that is one thing which you need to be really, really careful about, because in image classification, the training data, the validation data, and testing data have a major importance. Okay, the next step about objectives is develop proficiency in writing efficient vectorized code with NumPy. So how can you really write code in NumPy is something that we also want you to achieve. Develop proficiency in writing efficient parallelized code with TensorFlow, Keras, or PyTorch. So whenever it comes to neural network in data science, we have these frameworks which are the most useful, which can be utilized to the maximum whenever we want to develop any new neural network architecture. So the backends are TensorFlow, Keras, and PyTorch. So they are managed systems which enable you to work with GPUs which are there in your system. They help you to do all your neural network calculations in a much more easier way. Okay, so that is about develop proficiency in TensorFlow, Keras, or PyTorch. Yeah, so PyTorch is something which is very recent. TensorFlow is something that is there from a few years. So TensorFlow and Keras is something that is developed completely by Google, and it's also open sourced from their end. PyTorch is something that Facebook had released, and it is being used intensively today for the different kinds of applications. What we really intend you to achieve is implement a CNN-based classifier. So that CNN is a convolutional neural network. So it's a typical type of a neural network which helps you to work with different kinds of images. So that's why we are talking about it being a CNN-based classifier. Understand the differences and trade-offs of using different CNN hyperparameters, optimization techniques, and training techniques. Okay, so we want you to understand how the CNN algorithm works. That's why we put forth this project in front of you. The evaluation is going to be in this manner. First is implementing the training and inference pipeline for a 2-layer CNN network. So we have not asked for a very deep network. The very basic criteria that you need to really suffice is a 2-layer CNN network. Okay, so you will have to start with that. People who are raising their hands, please put that question on the chat window. I'll not try to give you the chance right now so that the flow doesn't get broken. Okay. Next is some experiments for 50 points, wherein you can experiment with architecture, wherein you can include your dropouts, batch normalization, max pool, average pool, optimizing the number of layers on nodes. So whenever you see a CNN architecture for the very first time, you'll be able to see these all different layers which are existing in your architecture and how you can really play with them. So that is your experiment section. wherein the first topic is experimenting with the baseline architecture itself. Next, what you have is experimenting with the different activation functions. So for any neural network, once you have multiplied your weights with your inputs and added biases to it, you will have to pass it through a typical activation function so that the data is shaped in a certain manner. So the experimentation is something that involves sigmoid, ReLU, tanh. So these are the different kinds of activation functions which have been included and can be applied to your data. So that is about your activation functions. Next is experimentation with optimizers. So during the learning process or the training process, how do your optimizers actually affect your working of the project is what is being spoken about here, wherein you can apply your Adam optimizer or SGD optimizer depending on whatever you would want to use. Experimenting with callbacks. So early stopping, reduce LR on plateau, model checkpoint. So all of these different techniques or callbacks are just going to help you to ensure that the algorithm that is running for so long is not stopped by infinite resources, or it's not something that gets affected by the kind of work that is going on. So it's not something where you tend to make mistakes when so many resources are being utilized for your training. Next is experimentation with your different loss functions. So you have cross entropy, you have focal loss. So depending on the kind of loss that you have, you can totally go ahead and experiment with the different loss functions out there. Next is experiencing with metrics. So as I have always mentioned anywhere and everywhere about the different metrics that we have in data science: accuracy score, precision, recall, F1 score, ROC, AUC, then your confusion matrix. All of these metrics are something that are chosen according to the use case. It is not something that you use it generically for any kind of problem that you're solving. So over here, you can choose comfortably what is the metric that will suit your particular task that you want to achieve. So these are the different parameters which we would want you to experiment on, and that's why it's holding a good 50 points out of your 100 points. Next is your research and analysis, which will be priced at 30 points. So implement, investigate, or analyze something extra surrounding the topics in this assignment using the code that you have developed. So we just want you to, investigate the data, try to come up with some highlights. For example, is there some interesting question we could have asked? Maybe you can experiment with the different layers in the architecture. If you try out something cool, we'll give you up to 30 extra points and may feature your results in the final presentation. So this is your out of the box space wherein, you can do a lot of work around the kind of project that you're dealing with and try to give some insightful findings that you could, find out from your EDA, from your entire project that you'll be undertaking. So your research and analysis is a very important step and something that we do as a part of our day-to-day work, even in the industry. So research and analysis is like a thing without which you cannot really drive your data science projects. That's the basic idea behind research and analysis. And the next thing is presentation. Now you must be wondering, why do we have this kind of a presentation thing over here, like in this entire scenario that we have where we are working with like data science projects, right? Ab yahan pe kyun? Like, why is the presentation criteria there altogether? So what really happens is that whenever we are working in the data science space in the industry also, we might have to present our results, like whatever analysis we do on the technical side, to business people. So whenever we have to talk to business people and really convey our thoughts and ideas, it's really good to have visualizations and information shown to them in such a way that it appeals to them and it really makes a mark. So whenever that is the case, we have to be, thorough and well prepared to deal with different kinds of presentations also on a day-to-day basis. So here, that is why the first point is there any insightful visualization that you can plot or anything fun to look at? If there is something insightful that you can really extract from your work that you've done till now, you should go ahead and do that. What can you infer from the results would be your next thing. Share a public notebook on Kaggle with your findings. So if you're able to release a public notebook with your findings, that's over and above, a cherry on the cake, basically. Upload your project on GitHub. So as I was already telling you that GitHub is a very important platform. and something that you can even include as a part of your resume. So it will be really great if you can upload this particular project on GitHub. Then make a PPT describing your learnings from the projects or results from your analysis and the possible use cases of your project. So whatever your learnings are, if you're able to put it in 10 slides, that's the best way to learn about any project and how to put it um, in front of the other highly reputed people that you have. Next is your GitHub README should contain all the scripts which are used in the project. So, you need to ensure that all the codes that you have, worked with and all the experiments that you have done with are present in your GitHub repo. And you mentioned everything in a structured README file, which is giving the invigilators or, the people who are looking at your project a very good feel about the entire understanding of the project and how you went about doing this. So this is largely the second project that we're talking about, which is cats versus dog classifier. So these are the different things which you can really go about learning, Googling. You have such a big world of Google in front of you. Use Medium, use Analytics Vidya, use Google to try to learn about the different concepts and try to develop a project. Choose the one that is more interesting to you. Both of them are equally effortful. Like you'll have to put some efforts to learn about it if you are a beginner. But if you already know about it, then you can choose a project according to your convenience, like whatever you're good at or whatever you've learned about. Okay, and so this is the document which is going to be shared with you, and the data sets will also be shared with you. So that will not be a problem on that end at all. So I hope you all have at least understood what needs to be done. And this brings an end to what I had to present. We can open it up to QA session now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Ekta. That was great. If you can stop sharing,
Yeah.
then yeah, great. So we do have a lot of questions, but I think
Yeah.
most of them you have answered on our previous sessions. What is data science? What is the career like and everything. I'll take a few questions specifically to what you talked about today. So someone is asking, what do you mean by multidisciplinary field?
So when we talk about multidisciplinary field, we mean to say that there are multiple streams which are going to be used over here. So when I say fields, we say maths and statistics is a separate field altogether, right? Because you can do a lot in maths and statistics also. Like you can even do your PhD in maths and statistics. That becomes a completely different channel. Computer science is altogether always a different channel. So there are too many things which are involved over here. When you come to domain, like marketing becomes a different channel, supply chain becomes a different domain. So that way, it's a very multidisciplinary field combining multiple channels, multiple domains all together. So that's the basic idea behind talking about multidisciplinary field.
Okay, awesome. I think we have more questions, but first let's just tell them about the submission. So
Yeah.
again, just reiterating a few facts. Right now, I'm sending two links I've just sent two links in the chat box. One is the PDF that Ms. Ekta just presented. Whatever you don't understand, right, you can definitely email to us. We will help you out, but try and Google, right? Try and look for yourself because that will help you get ready for the industry because in the industry, nobody is telling you things. I think she also has mentioned previously that you have to go out there yourself and look for information that you need. There will definitely be feedbacks. We will help you out after your submissions, but for the first submission, you have to put in a bit of effort, right? The second link I have attached is the submission form. All of you have to upload that as mentioned on our link, GitHub link, and share that with us. If you don't know how to use GitHub, it is take this as an opportunity to go on YouTube and learn, right? Learn how to use GitHub, learn how to use whatever you did not understand. There is a lot of free material available on our website, on YouTube, and definitely there are other platforms in the market who are teaching these things for free. So please go and try yourself. I hope to see that maybe around 75 people are here, maybe around 50 more people are submitting the project. If I can just get in the chat how many people think they want to submit this project and who will put in an effort to create these projects, just mention me in the chat box. Harshvardhan, are the links okay? We have two
I'm
people.
just checking. I'm just checking. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, you can meanwhile address any questions that are there. I'll just see what is the problem with the links.
Sure. Are there only two people who are going to attempt the project? Okay, we have three.
I was hoping it would be a number up to 50, right? So you did spend 1 hour listening to the projects and how do we create them. And this is the deadline is good. The deadline is for more than a week. So the deadline is of Sunday, 9th May, 5 p.m. So it's a good time for you to spend, learn, and build a project to your best abilities. We will definitely check for copies from the internet. We have our own systems to check that if you have copied it or if you actually built it yourself. But definitely, the purpose of giving you such a decent deadline to create this project is so that you actually try it yourself and you're able to push yourself to build these projects. And the same reason was to ensure that we are giving you certificates. I am sure that adds on a added motivation layer to attempt the project. Right, Ms. Ekta, Tanvi is asking if Python and ML are prerequisites. What are the prerequisites to build these?
Yeah, so Python is a prerequisite. ML is something that you can learn on the fly. So for the so if you are like someone who does not know ML, you can attempt the sentiment analysis project if you know Python. So that you learn about ML, just those three algorithms will also work, but you learn about them when you read it. So I would advise people to take in the first project for those who are not aware of ML. And those who are already aware of ML and really interested, go to the neural networks one, cat versus dog classifier. That would be a better idea.
Okay, sure. So Amarpal is asking, from where am I starting my CS career in AI as a beginner? Amarpal, can you please repeat your question? It wasn't clear to me. Um, Yes, Prajwal during the session asked if you can submit one project or if you need to submit both. Definitely, we encourage you to submit at least one. Even if you submit at least one project, we will share the certificate and feedback with you. But we would be more than happy if you want to build both projects, right? The more you practice, the better it is. Okay, so Chidinma is asking, how does a data scientist differ from a data analyst?
Okay, so on the data analysis side, you'll be dealing with descriptive and inferential analytics, whereas for data science, what will happen is you'll have to deal with predictive analytics because that's the basic the basic idea behind doing data science. So you'll be dealing with a lot of predictive models, you'll be working with ML, you'll be working with AI and trying to build solutions. So that's the basic difference between data science and data analysis. The tools are also a bit different, not a bit, quite a lot in fact. So Python also has a different set of libraries, but you can do data analysis in Excel, but you can't do data science in Excel. So data analysis, data science has different tools also.
Right. So I have also added a YouTube link in the chat. This was a session that Ms. Ekta took with us a few months ago. In this, she has talked in detail about the roadmap of AI. What is the difference between different roadmaps after Python, like deep learning, neural networks? What are the careers? And I think a lot of questions in the chat, which are here, have been answered by her uh, in this YouTube session, right? So I think all of you will be able to get your answers from there. Are there any more questions regarding the projects that we are going to build? Please check the links if you are able to access them now.
Yeah, I have shared it on the chat window. You can probably share it on email also once, Tanvi.
Sure.
Yeah, for everyone.
I have also reshared the link for the type form for the submission.
They're still saying it's not working.
Is there anybody, Harshvardhan, apart from you, who can check? Maybe you can drop us an email and we'll send you it separately on email also. Working. Okay, great. Two people are saying it's working. Awesome.
Okay.
I would also request all of you to share your feedback for today's session.
Yeah, and we have 5 minutes. So if they want to ask any particular career related question, also open to that, because many a times what happens is then people come back saying, this career question got unanswered.
Sure. I'll just pick up from the chat a few questions. How do you define a good data scientist and a bad data scientist? I think this is an interesting question.
There's nothing called as a bad data scientist or bad anything. Let's not, propagate negativity at all. So basically, when we talk about a good data scientist, we need to ensure that we have the skill sets for all the three different bubbles that I was talking about. That is very, very important. So you need to know about all those things about computer science, maths and statistics, and also business domain or expertise. So if you have that skill set and if you're able to apply it on your real life projects, okay, now when you're working in the industry, it'll be totally different from what you're learning. So that difference will always stay. But when you get into the industry and work on these projects, you'll get a very good hands-on idea about how to work with different things and how to work with challenging problems. Because data science is all about challenge. On a day-to-day basis, we are dealing with a lot of challenge. So it is something which is interesting. The things keep on changing, changing, changing. It's not something that remains static. So good data scientist related to those three bubbles. That's what I would say.
Okay, and we have a question on why is data analyst profile underrated in India, if at all, if you
It's
think it
not
is?
underrated. The data analyst profile is there in India, I think from 80s and 85s. When the investment banks really came into picture, they started with the data analyst roles. He's saying that as low as CTC compared to okay, full stack developer, I think he means. So that is possible as a fresher. Now, as a fresher, you can't really say that, okay, I'm getting 8 lakhs, I'm getting 6 lakhs, I'm getting 4 lakhs. You just need to focus on the fact that what you want to do is what you're able to achieve or no. Because when you'll see like 4 years, 5 years down the line, you'll reach the stage where you want to. So wherever you start with, don't attribute everything to that. Like eventually, as you move forward in your career, you will reach the goals where you want to. You'll be able to get to that kind of CTC that you're aspiring for, get to that kind of work that you've been looking for. So don't look at it from a very fresher's point of view, that what is the kind of CTC that is offered. If you like a data analyst profile, just work towards it. Don't go towards any other field. Development, analysis, comparison, there is no comparison between both the fields. They're equally valuable today.
Great, awesome. I think we are done with the questions also. Please, again, I've shared the feedback link in the chat box. Would be happy to receive any feedback about the session. And please make sure that you are registered on the website to receive the emails, follow-up emails of this session and whatever updates we will give regarding the submission. Amarpal, did we miss your question? How do we clear HR rounds in IT firms? Amarpal, I think that is whole another hour of discussion. I will just write to us at student.connect. We do have sessions on that. We will share the links with you. This is our query email where you can write and get your doubts cleared. Today we have just in 3 minutes, we have a session on front-end development, and at 7 p.m. we have a panel discussion. This I am answering Prajwal's question, and Akansha is saying if we can share a video. Yes, the session is being live streamed on YouTube. We will be sharing a video with you, and definitely what Ms. Ekta explained, you would maybe require to revisit it. We will share the recording of this session with you in the email where we will send the submission link also. Again, thank you so much, Ms. Ekta, for joining us. Thank you so much for giving your time again for the community. And I'm looking forward to get the projects from everyone and hoping that you have a tough time checking them because because I am hoping that people are doing a good job and trying their best to submit the projects and working hard. Definitely, hopefully they are creating the correct GitHub links also. That would be a easier thing for us. Thank you so much again for your time. Any closing comments for our audience?
Very happy to check how many of our submissions that come. I have no issues doing that at all. And yeah, I would really encourage you guys to read about data science and try to attempt at least one project. Do it so that it's there on your resume. And if you want to pursue this field, and if there are stoppers, this will just aggravate you, in pushing towards the field that you're looking for. So yeah, that's what I would say. Read and try to, implement it. That's about it. Thank you so much for inviting me over. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Ekta. For those who are in the session, you can stay tuned for our next session. We will be starting in another 2 minutes. Our next speaker is Mr. Yomesh Gupta, who would be talking about what is front-end development, and definitely I have few questions about full stack development and all. And if you at all want to get started, how can you get into it, and what is the journey he has followed? We'll just take a 2-minute gap for the session to start. Oh, we have our speaker already. Hi, Mr. Yomesh, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How about you?
I'm good. So if I can get in the chat, how many people are here for the web development session also? I think new people must have joined after the previous session. Okay, we already have people for the web development session. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for thank you so much everyone for staying the duration. We do have sessions planned for another 2 hours. Would love to host you further. Great. By show of hands or maybe in the chat, if we can now talk about web development and how many of us are beginners in web development, how many of us uh, are just here to learn what is web development and front end development. Please tell me in the chat so that we can go ahead. Also, since we did not get time for introduction, if I can get which cities are you people from, um, uh, which colleges are you from, and which years are you in, so that we are able to introduce each other. Okay, we have a few beginners. Last year student in CSE. We have MCA people. Anyone who is a working professional, so who's already working, who's in the industry. Okay, Rudra has already started with front end, and you're a BCom honors graduate. That's great. I think with the recent technology boom, a lot of people are shifting from non-tech to tech also. Okay, we have an Android developer with us.